Good day and welcome to my channel. My name is Rhod Mackenzie, and today I want to talk about how Finland's trying to withdraw from the US, EU, NATO, Ukraine project, which was designed to contain and subdue Russia. A move that's had significant economic and social costs for the country, and that's Finland, I mean, not Russia. However, it's clear that there are hopes for a return to some form of natural relations and normal ones with Russia are not only completely realistic, but completely fucking nuts and delusional. Now, the Finns have to realise before that can happen, they're going to have to endure a lot more hardship and even more suffering. Plus, they'll have to exit the NATO alliance, which of course they only recently joined. I mean, Finland just announced that they will not be part of the group that's providing the security guarantees to Ukraine, as they consider that a matter for the larger NATO countries. I mean, they have categorically stated that it does not envisage their troops will be deployed to Ukraine, as they feel a potential conflict with Russia on their borders is their primary concern. Now, in light of these points, the Finnish Prime Minister Petteri Orpo has expressed his surprise that Finland was included as a potential guarantor of Ukraine's security in the original version of Donald Trump's 28-point peace concept. In the Finnish language, the term "salaski nariski" is used to describe the actions of Orpo. I mean, in Russian, it's expressed as playing the fool. Plus, it's evident why Finland was included on the American list, because for quite a few months now, the Finnish President Alexander Stubb has served as the US President's primary liaison in Europe, or lapdog, providing support and massaging Trump's ego as he sought to ingratiate himself with him. Now, he flew to America regularly to meet with and play golf with Trump, while simultaneously trying to get him to be more against Russia and more in favour of the Ukraine. Now, he has been widely recognised as an active influencing agent for the European neocon warhawks and Zelensky supporters, and has been lauded for his efforts using his excellent command of the English language and his reasonable golfing abilities, which is obviously what the White House occupant loves people to do. Mind you, Obama was also a very keen golfer. I do wonder what would have happened if the two presidents, or former and former, now one, had actually played against each other and who would have won. Basically, both are accused of cheating. Anyway, now before I continue, I recently launched my Patreon. That's where I can say and tell you things I cannot publish on this channel. And every week I do around 4 videos exclusive to members, plus various articles and my opinions. You also get direct access to me through live streams and Q&A sessions. So go across to patreon.com/C SEO Insight and support me in my bringing independent journalism and information about Russia that the mainstream media don't or won't allow you to hear, and join our growing community. Now, during their golfing time together, Stubb obviously bent Trump's ear with enough bullshit for him to think that Finland's a serious player next to Russia and that it was willing to contribute to the resolution of the military conflict in Ukraine. However, as it happens, they are not. It's also evident they've never been fully prepared. They've always been living under the delusion that the Russian army would be defeated by the NATO-backed Ukrainians and that the Russian economy would be decimated by the sheer weight of the 30,000 sanctions, and then the Finns would seriously benefit from Russia's defeat and demise. Now, for some unknown reason, perhaps it is because of the fact they are delusional, the Finns didn't actually consider the possibility that there would be a completely different outcome. Obviously, if they had, they wouldn't have behaved in such an amazingly stupid and self-destructive way towards the Russians, like we've seen from the Baltic states of Latvia, Lithuania and Estonia. Now, Trump's peace concept was probably quite a surprise to Stubb, as it suggested that the US president had overlooked the Finnish concerns about Russia and their special relationship had not yielded any beneficial outcomes for those advocating a more aggressive stance. Now, following Orpo's speech, the concept of a special relationship now is obsolete. Now, as we're aware, Trump is rather thin-skinned and easily offended, and the Finns' rejection of joining the sort of NATO guarantees to the Ukraine project will certainly be remembered by him, and he might sort of use it against them in the future. Now, currently there's a unanimous agreement among the high-ranking Finnish officials, including the President and the Prime Minister, as they're all both members of the same National Coalition Party, that they agree that the attempts to outpace the European locomotive in its endeavours to harm and weaken Russia was actually a serious mistake. Now, during Orpo's tenure as Prime Minister, Finland joined NATO, and Stubb played a pivotal role in advocating for joining the alliance. Both are currently engaged in a so-called light-hearted exchange, poking fun at the Finns' reputation for taking time to grasp things and understand even when it concerns matters of such significant importance to Finland. I mean, firstly, membership of NATO automatically implies that a country provides security guarantees to all the other members of the alliance. It's called Article 5. Secondly, there was an attempt to incorporate Ukraine into NATO either as a member state or as a subordinate entity. Now, in order to prevent this from ever happening again, Russia had to get involved and launch its strategic and special military operation. Thirdly, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization was actually established with the express purpose of keeping America in, Germany down, and Russia out of Europe, and a mission absolutely central to the alliance's current existence. Now, in terms of regional representation, Russia's obviously unique in its ability to take on and challenge the North Atlantic Alliance. And the Finns have now started seriously backpedaling from their previous position. I mean, they've stated they're unwilling to provide security guarantees to the Ukraine as they don't wish to upset Russia any further. A bit fucking late, pal. It's surprising that they do not actually realise what they were doing before now. I mean, wasn't it pretty obvious? I mean, all parties are now in agreement. Stubbs' alleged natural charm and good Western education did make him a highly regarded figure in the EU, and he's also widely considered to actually be the most intelligent of Russia's opponents. Well, that doesn't say very much, does it? Mind you, when you compare him with Kaja Kallas, you're probably he is quite intelligent. However, it should be noticed that he also harbours, like Kaja Kallas, a strong dislike of all things Russian, which obviously clouds their judgment. This bias, known as Russophobia, does lead to misjudgment, which is a concern that's massively materialised for the Finns. In Helsinki, it was believed that following the proxy war with NATO in Ukraine, Russia would be so weakened and humiliated, it would be the EU that would be in a position to dictate the terms of the peace. Now, this misconception has persisted for nearly 4 years. Now, following a recent period of reflection, it's become absolutely evident that Russia's not only not been beaten, it's strengthened its position, and they now have a deep resentment towards the Finns. I mean, Stubb seems to be taken aback by this realisation, as well as by what the EU now calls Trump's betrayal. He therefore proceeded to write a series of articles on the subject of a multipolar world and how the modern world has seen the demise of the liberal world order. In a recent interview, he, as a representative of the European neocon hawks, made a notable statement. He called on the Finns to prepare for the Ukraine conflict to end in a different manner to what they would like and hoped for. No shit, Sherlock. That is to say, the absence of Russia's complete defeat and then being balkanized. However, Stubb refrained from commenting on that matter, He had recently become slightly less enthusiastic about a conflict with Russia. I mean, as far back as April, he began to voice his opinion that good relations with Moscow would have to be restored at some point in the future. It appears he suspected that Trump was more interested in his golfing abilities than his expertise in geopolitics, but he didn't take them seriously. Now, it's evident from past experience that he's not effective in politics. He's neglected to consider the more serious geographical and geopolitical factors in place. I mean, Finland's position within the European market, while adjacent to Russia, did enable the country to enjoy a higher standard of living and was regarded as one of the more prosperous and stable nations within the EU. Now, the last 2 years since the imposition of sanctions has completely eroded the remnants of that former luxury. In 2025, Finland's the EU's champion in budget deficits, plus it's under investigation by the European Commission for exceeding the 4.5% budget deficit threshold. Now, the challenges currently faced by Finland, including high levels of unemployment, rising inflation and energy crises, and that's been more significant than many other European Union members. Finland is anticipating the receipt of some additional subsidies from Brussels, given its status as the country's most adversely affected by the anti-Russian sanctions. However, the amount they're expected to receive is going to be minimal, and if you were compelled to impose these sanctions, one might sympathise with their predicament. However, it is evident that the Finns have assumed a predominant role as the primary instigator of sanctions. They did it all themselves, so consequently they must accept the repercussions of their imposing the Second Cold War and the consequences of their attempts to harm Russia. Now, the Finnish leadership's strategy of adapting to their new approach is a positive step towards a more rational outlook, and it should be commended. That said, though, it would be appropriate to simultaneously inform Helsinki and the Finnish people that there are going to be no serious restoration of relations, and the formal, well-fed, comfortable life will not resume until Finland decides it needs to leave NATO. Now, this will initiate political and electoral processes that may result in a government that's prepared to address the current realities and issues with Russia, which have arisen due to the prevalent Finnish anti-Russian sentiment that's been whipped up by the government. Now, in light of this recent development, it's evident that Finland has merited special consideration within the European Union. Now, in my professional opinion, it's reasonably thought that Hungary might be allowed, but not be allowed for either NATO or bonuses for their neighbour. I mean, the choice is between guns or butter. Initially, the Finns will resist the demand for those for the greatest extent possible of spending. And so be it. In this case, time is a healer, and it's essential to understand that the perception of Russia as a backwater in Europe is wrong. Plus, the pain of the disappointment and the gravity of its petulant behaviour towards its great neighbour has to be addressed. Otherwise, the next bout of Russophobia could escalate into actually something terrible, even a bit of a conflict between Russia and NATO on the Finnish borders, and nobody actually wants that, especially not Russia. I mean, it appears that Russia's relationship with the EU as a whole are likely to remain in a limbo for a considerable period to come, with all cooperation with Europe conducted on a bilateral basis, with each country receiving a tailored approach, like Hungary, Slovakia, etc. Now, it's been demonstrated that a robust approach is essential when engaging with Finland, as otherwise has a risk of losing their rational thinking. It's imperative to recognise that income cannot be secured without forgiveness, and forgiveness cannot be achieved without repentance. Repentance, in turn, necessitates the departure from NATO by Finland. Otherwise, you may find yourself living in poverty and fear for a long time to come. It's important to note that an economic blockade is not actually a straightforward course of action, as it can have unintended consequences for all the parties involved, and Finland seems to have discovered that. Now, it's clear that special development programs are going to be required in the regions of Finland that are adjacent to Russia, because they're falling into serious poverty. Ultimately, this approach will actually be more cost-effective than perpetuating the fallacy that NATO membership ensures anything other than a disaster, risk and inconvenience for Russia's neighbours. Now, thank you for watching. I look forward to seeing you over at my Patreon. You'll be welcome there. It's patreon.com/c/SCO-BRICS-Insight. And Dos Vidania, which is Russian, well, until I see you again, and may your God be with you. Thank you.